Brooklyn's Capital and managing partner and co-founder of Pacific Bridge Asset Management, an affiliate of Brooklyn's. She has spent her career in management and finance, including UBS Investment and GE, where she was certified as a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Ms. Choi began her career in Asia working for Morgan Stanley Investment Bank as an analyst. She received a Bachelor's of Arts in Economics from Smith College. Please welcome Ginny Choi. Thank you. Oh, and I forgot, yeah. If you can't, she's going to use the microphone, and if you can't hear, just raise your hand.
I'll speak really loud.
Thank you.
I got some fruit as well.
Well, thank you for having me here today. I am very honored and extremely flattered that Linda asked me to speak here today. And I think she wanted me to speak here today because she and I share the same conviction. The United States of America may not be the perfect country, but it is the very best country for opportunities and freedom. And we all need to fight for those who are against having those wishes to make this country a socialistic country. In speaking democratic society, please raise your hand if you already voted. Thank you. Wow, look at this group. This is wonderful. And whoever did not raise your hand, I'm sure you're going to vote in November. And I'm speaking up here today because I cannot vote. I am not a US citizen, so it will be illegal for me to vote.
That's right.
Although, when I was renewing my driver license in DMV, I gave her my green card, permanent resident card, and a lot of other information. And she asked me a question, would you like to register to vote? And I said, I just gave you a green card, meaning I am not US citizen, so I can't vote. Blank stare. She asks again, so would you like to register to vote?
Oh my gosh.
This is in Minnesota?
Minnesota,
Oh,
in Plymouth.
okay.
And I told him, I said, like, no, that will be illegal for me to vote because I'm not a US citizen. The document I gave you is a green card, meaning I can't vote. And she says, okay. And I thought to myself, how many times does she ask that question? And how many people actually say yes? I thought about it. That split second, that thought came to my mind. I was like, should I say yes? Then I told myself, no, I'm not them. We are not them.
Right.
We're not going to stoop low to their level. We're better than that. And that means we really need to win so big that they can win. That's the only way. So I'm here speaking up because I need this country. I want this country to be better and stay as it is and not change. Because a lot of other countries like my country, from South Korea, we all depend on America. And that's one of the reasons I'm speaking up. And yes, I'm not US citizen, I'm South Korean citizen. I was born and raised there.
That's okay.
And I lived here in the United States more than I lived in Korea. I pay taxes in the United States, not in Korea. So everybody says, why don't you just change? That'd be much easier. I think it is the same reason that you're all sitting down here. Patriotism. It means far more and greater thing than just what passport you have in the airport. To me, that's where I was country. I was born and raised, and that's my country. But however, I love this country, don't get me wrong. I lived here and I still live here, and I'm willing to fight for your country and the country I live in, United States of America. And a lot of times I feel as though I love this country, United States of America, more than a lot of US citizens that are living in the United States. And I came here when I was in high school as an international student, as a legal immigrant. Not an intruder, not an invader, not an infiltrator. I get so upset when they're calling them, who is crossing the border, as illegal immigrants. They're not immigrants. The people who waited online, who provided all the documentations and finally got to immigrate to the United States are the immigrants. They're not. They're invaders. They're infiltrators. I have such a problem with that. My brother, who applied for a green card, who is a Cornell University graduate, he actually studied in the United States for a lengthy period of time, and now he was in Korea. He has a family. He's willing to immigrate to the United States with a green card He is actually bringing a couple millions of dollars worth of money, and he has a job in the United States. He waited 7 years to get that green card. Yet, these people are just walking over. That is not okay. Yes, America is a country of immigrants and so forth, but it has to be legal immigrants. So we know who is coming to this country, not anyone who wants to cross that border. And as an American, as a foreigner, English is a second language, minority, and a woman, I was able to get into prestigious colleges in a lot of different companies with nothing but my own hard work. And that's what it should be. And if I could have done that, anyone can. And that's what America offers that no other country offers. And that's American dream. And I'm speaking up so that next person who are like me or any generation of the people can have the same opportunity and same privilege that I got to enjoy. And I'm afraid that is on the stake of this year's voting. And up until last year, I was sitting in your spot, not up here. I was thinking, why speak up? It's not my country. I'm not an American citizen. It's not my place. And I thought not speaking up, not getting involved is just that. But I got to a point I could not hold my mouth any longer. First, it was discrimination against Asian students getting into college. We all suspected, but we didn't know for sure. But because of the lawsuits, finally colleges admitted that they are discriminating against Asian students in going to college. And I said, what? In the United States? They finally admitted they are discriminating against a certain race. It's going to uproar. No, nothing happened. No correction, not even an apology, and just continuing to discriminate. Then it was against the white men. It started with a subtle rejection by HR department when you're trying to hire white men. Now, a lot of corporations and large banks have certain quotas of jobs that they are planning to replace white men with minority and women. That is their official HR strategy. Yet, in America, they're literally discriminating against a certain race and certain gender. Yet, nothing happens. No apologies, no course correction, continuing to discriminate. Then it was against the women. They're violating our own protective space, bathrooms, lockers, and women's sports that are protected in law. Yet, nothing happens. Continuing to discriminating and calling us the racist and misogynist and all of those name calling. And then it was against the Jewish people and Israelis. Anti-Semitic remarks everywhere in colleges, and now they're calling to death to America, death to Israel. And I said to myself, enough is enough. It is a time for every one of us to stand up and speak. Even all those people who are just kind of quiet and letting things happen, I think it got to a point we can no longer just stand by and see what happens. Because as I was telling Linda prior to this morning, from a Korean's perspective, America is it. You guys are last line of defense for freedom and liberty and capitalism and all of those things we cherish so much in a lot of different countries. If you guys fall, there is nobody who's coming to save you. This is it. This is literally it. So, for a lot of foreigners are also watching U.S. elections. It's because it's on their benefits as well. America being strong, America staying as a republic of a democratic society and capitalistic society, it means a whole lot to everybody on the earth, not just America. That's why U.S. election gets covered so globally. You guys have such a precious right on your hands to vote. I wish I have that voting. I don't. So therefore, I'm here speaking of trying to change anyone's mind to vote right. So let's talk about socialism. When I first heard about socialism, I thought, they're gonna just go home and Google and find out how horrendous socialism has been, and they'll change their mind. Gosh, was I wrong. Not only, so they didn't stop, the movement of socialism is getting bigger and stronger every day. And socialism has been tried and failed spectacularly so many times. Soviet Union, China, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, Laos, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Albania, Angola, Belarus, Somalia, Congo, I can go on and on and on. All those countries tried and failed, and even they moved over to capitalism. And now, 2024, America wants to try socialism? If that's not the definition of insanity, I don't know what is. If that wasn't enough, I'm going to show you perfect twins study. As you know, in twins study is always considered the highest grade quality study because you are able to hold every element the same and change just one element. And then see what happens to that twin over time. Then you can really see what one factor can change in that twins. That is my country, South and North Korea. Korea have over 5,000 years of history. We have a long history. We lived as a Korean for 5,000 years. We have same culture. We have our own language, Korean. We have our own same history, same DNA, same everything. If I send my blood to Ancestry DNA, they will tell me I'm 100% Korean. That's how we lived for 5,000 years. And one day, July 27, 1953, we were divided into two countries. Nothing different except one thing, ideology. South Korea decided to go with the United States and Western European countries, and we chose capitalism. North Korea decided to go with the Soviet Union and China, and they chose socialism. That is one and only difference between North and South. Socialism was and always is marketed as this utopia, right? Everybody will share all the wealth together. We will all share the fruits of the labors together. Everybody will get free housing. Everybody will get free education. Everybody will get free electricity. And everybody will have jobs. And everybody will share everything together. Gosh, doesn't that sound so freaking nice? I was like, well, sign me up too if that's the case. But the very problem of the socialism is the very beginning of that building the utopia. In order to build a utopia, everything is shared equally and fairly and all that means government has to have all of the assets, all of the belongings. That means no more private assets of any kind. Government will have to take all of the private assets, your assets, properties, belongings, anything that you have that is of value will belong to the government. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have anything. Oh, I got nothing, so therefore, let's do it. I don't have anything, so let's take all the rich people's assets and we'll share it all. And that's often why young people like socialism. They couldn't be any more wrong. Because even if they don't think they have anything, guess what? They likely got up in comfortable mattress beds somewhere, in a house or apartment somewhere. And they likely have food and electricity in their house. They have a refrigerator full of food and pantry with full of food. They likely have a cars and they likely have a phones and so forth. So they don't think they have anything? Trust me, they have a lot. And let's say you don't even have those. You walk up in the middle of the street, you're a homeless person. Guess what? You don't think you have anything? You have physical body. That means they can labor you. And even if not only the labor, the physical body that belongs to the government, whatever is in your mind also belongs to the government. Socialism can only work if they own every asset, wealth, belongings, as well as your physical body and your mind. That's the start of the socialism. Of course, not a single person is going to say, oh yes, take my assets, take my land, take my housing, take all of my belongings. Nobody. Therefore, they will fight. And government has to win over you, and that's where the violence comes in. They will physically kill you and harm you to take your assets. Still, government is a still smaller population of the people versus whole population. How do you control the bigger population when you have a small population? Fear. You have to put fear into people so they stop resisting and stop fighting. What's the best tool to put fear? Public killing. That's why they kill people in public, whether they hang them or shoot them. China, Soviet Union, every of those countries that try the socialism always have a public killing. And they require, it's a mandatory for everybody to come and attend. In North Korea, they even send kids, elementary school kids, have to watch people getting shot to death in front of them. Once you see that, they tell me that there is nothing in their bone that can have a courage to fight. Because they can see what could happen, not only to them, but to their loved ones. And because of this needing for violence, and inevitably, there's one person who is willing to go furthest, willing to do the most cruel thing, most violence against your own people, end up holding that power at the end. And that's why socialism always ends up having dictators in every history. You've heard of these people. Adolf Hitler killed 17 million people. Joseph Stalin killed 23 million people. Mao Zedong from China, estimation is from anywhere from 49 to 78 million people. Benito Mussolini, 500,000 people. Pol Pot, 2 million people. Kim Il-sung of North Korea killed 1.6 million people. His son, Kim Jong-il, and his grandson, Kim Jong-un, are still killing people as we speak. See, the biggest problem of socialism is this violence. Socialism is estimated to kill about 100 million people. Some say as high as 200 million people. Let's put that into perspective. World War I had 40 million people died, and that's the highest estimation. World War II, estimation of 85 million people. Socialism killed over 100 million people. And some people say, well, they were not all socialism, Ginny. They were communism, they were fascism, Nazism, totalitarianism, Marxism, Leninism, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? These are all different shades of one color, socialism. People often tell me that, Ginny, North Korea is not socialism. They're a totalitarian country. Totalitarian country means it's a form of a government and a political system that prohibits all opposition parties, outlaws individual and group opposition to the state and its claims, and exercises extremely high, if not complete, degree of control and regulation over public and private life. Guess what? North Korean people did not choose totalitarian country at beginning. They chose socialism, just like South Korea chose capitalism. When the day the week split, it was right after 3 years of a Korean War. And prior to that Korean War, Korea was colonized by Japan for years. We went to horrific many years at that time. So North Korea decided to do something really noble and just. They chose socialism. They said, no riches, no poor. We'll take care of all our own people. We're gonna do noble and just thing. We are choosing socialism. And that's one of the reasons a lot of intellect of Korea at the time went to North to choose socialism. South Korea was left with those people who really didn't know what we were doing, and they chose capitalism. That's the only difference. And for people to say, well, North Korea is a totalitarian country, really upsets me because that's not what they chose. No right person in their mind will choose totalitarian country, isn't it? Nobody will choose Nazism either. They all thought they're going to socialism, and they never got there. They're stuck. They went to somewhere really bad with the violence, and that's where they're stuck. And that's why I'm speaking about socialism. So let's talk about now perfect twin study between North and South. Again, 5,000 years, same exact everything. And then one day we split. That's 71 years ago. That's it. So let's talk about GDP. I'm sure everybody thinks that, yeah, of course, South Korea has a lot higher GDP than North Korea. True, but was it like that all the time? This is showing you from 1950 to all the way 2010. This is according to BBC report. As you can see, South and North Korea, we were about the same up until about 1974. And then we split and we never got to see each other. As you can see, North Korea went up a little bit, but they stayed the same. For 70 years, they stayed the same. Whereas South Korea is going up like hockey stick. And I'm sure you can probably think, well, okay, now GDP of 2022, what is it? The funny factor is in 1950 when we split, North Korea was richer than we were. Of course, we're both very poor, obviously. But South Korea GDP was about $500. North Korea GDP was $876. We only had one power plant in Korea. That's it. That was in North Korea, not South Korea. So as soon as we split, they cut the power. We didn't even have a power in South Korea. And all the factories and everything was in North Korea because North Korea is closer to China and Soviet Union, so that's where they built all the industrial factories. South Korea, we had nothing but just rice field. That's how we started. 2022, our GDP per capita is almost 35,000, which is 43 times of North Korea. And the fun factor is we grew our economy by 70 times in 71 years. Meaning we doubled our size of economy every year. All because we chose capitalism. We are now the 13th largest economy in the whole world, and North Korea is about 10% of the 200 countries. That's what socialism gets you. Exports. I'm sure you're going to tell me, of course, South Korea exports more than North Korea. True. How many times do you think? 5 times? 10 times? 100 times? 500 times? How about 2,243 times? That's how different it is. Again, one difference, ideology, that's it. So what do you think is South Korea's biggest export?
Cars.
A lot of people say cars, electronics, and everything. But it's actually circuit boards, including our chips. That is one of our biggest exports. That's where we went in. That was our nationally thinking that was a growing industry, and we poured a lot of money and resources to it. Guess what is the biggest export of North Korea? Likely military, but it's really hard to find out what it is because it's illegal. So known exports is coal. They're exporting coal, and we're exporting chips. That's the difference between North and South Korea. Electricity. You know, somebody says, picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So I show you the picture. This picture was taken from space by NASA. The area that lights up like a Christmas tree, that's South Korea. They had to draw a line to show you where the land mass is, because otherwise it looks like Pacific Ocean. That is not. That is North Korea. They have no electricity whatsoever. And Pyongyang is the capital of North Korea where Kim Jong-un lives. That's why you see the little bit of lights over there. And above is China. North Korea has only about 4% of electricity consumption power that South Korea has. South Korea now is the best nuclear energy producers in the world, actually. That's the difference between South and North Korea. Life expectancy. Again, we've been separated only 70 years. The most 3 generations. That's it. After 5,000 years of together. Our life expectancy is different this way. According to BBC World Bank, the red is North Korea, green is South Korea. Now, as of speaking, South Koreans living 13 years longer than North Koreans. We've been separated only 70 years, yet we live 13 years different life. there's a lot of different data because there's no real data, because North Korea will not obviously produce these types of the data. So this particular one is from South Korea Department of Statistics. They also think South Koreans are living up to about 82 years. North Koreans are dying before 70 years, 12 years of difference. This is another statistics. National Institution of Health estimates the South Korean average is about 71 years for men, about 8 years for women. North Korean, 63 years for men and 67 years for women. And they are shorter than us, up to 8.1 inches of the men and 11.2 inches of women. Huge difference. Let's talk about physical differences a little bit more. This is really kind of hurts, it pains me when I talk about it. This was data was the teenagers we wanted to get. So the blue lines are boys and the gray lines are for the girls of teenagers. And the very last graph is North Korean. We basically, North Korean defectors, anyone who's defecting North Koreans, we've been measuring them, how tall they are. And we measure them anyone from 18 to 29 years old. So they're not teenagers, they're full adults. Yet men are about 5 foot 4 inches, and women are 4 foot 9 inches. That's smaller than our teenager boys and girls of 17 years. Boys of 17 years, we're about 5'7", girls are about 5'2". Huge difference between the North Koreans and South Koreans. Physical difference, the height, in 70 years. This is the most painful one probably because it's child malnutrition. About 17% of North Korean babies are malnutritioned, underweight. 1/3 of North Korean babies are not developing properly because of malnutrition. Whereas the South Korean babies, we have 6.7% of overweight problems. That's how different we are. So yes, as we talked about, North Koreans are shorter by about 4 to 5 inches. They're about weighs less than South Korean by about 7 to 9 kilograms, which is 15 to 20 pounds. And there was a big famine happened in 1990s in North Korea, and it is the time when Soviet Union fell. When Soviet Union fell, they did no longer had backing of Soviet Union to give them food and do an export and all of those things. And that's when they had a huge population die. North Korean says it's about 225 to 235,000 people died. We call that a bullshit. We think it's as high as 3.5 million people died at that time because of malnutrition. That is about double digit of the North Korean population at the time, which was about 22 million. So 1 in 10, as high as 1 in 5, died because of famine. Whereas South Korea was growing so rapidly. We've been giving them food and everything, but now they no longer want it. Because when we send it, obviously we write it's a South Korea food, whatever we are giving to them. They hide it, that was given from South Korea. So they only take out the covers and then they give the food to North Korean people, but they also know that it's coming from South Korea. They no longer want the food from us. He's willing to kill his own people, basically. Let's talk about roads. So a funny factor is North Korea is 1.2 times bigger than South Korea. So they're bigger land perspective than South Korea. South Korea has about 100,000 kilometers in Korea of the roads, which is about 62,000 miles in the tiny country of South Korea. Guess how many kilometers of North Korea has in North Korea, which is 1.2 times bigger than us? Maybe they have a similar size of road, despite the fact they're bigger? They only have a quarter of our road. We have 100,000 kilometers, they have 25,000 kilometers. The biggest kicker is that 97% of their roads unpaved. Only 3% paved. Opposite on our side, 92% of the roads are paved, 8% not paved. That's what socialism gets you, people. Cars. How many cars do we have on those roads that we're talking about? We need some baselines, right? Guess at how many cars in America have per 1,000 capita? United States about 900 cars. You guys have a lot of cars. Because that 1,000 includes all the babies and everyone. So you guys have a lot of cars, 900 cars for 1,000 people. How many cars do you think South Korea has per 1,000? South Korea.
Oh, South Korea.
Yes.
Probably the same.
Yeah. No, actually, we can't have that many because we're really small. So we have about 500. People have 500 cars per 1,000 capita, which is still a lot, trust me, because there's traffic everywhere in our country. North Korea, how many cars do you think they have per 1,000 people?
20, 10.
One. One car per 1,000 people. And not anybody can have it. Only people who can have is North Korean parties. No one else has it. Let's talk about mobile phones. So we talked about how many Koreans, South Korean we have. We have about 60 million people in our population. How many phones do you think we have, mobile phones?
60 million.
Yeah, which is a problem. You see, we have way too many freaking phones. Do you think North Korean people have phones?
No.
They actually do. It's a scary part. They have about 3 million phones.
They're not smart though.
Exactly. They have intranet, not internet. So they can't actually go into Google or X or any of those things that we have right to. They don't. It's controlled by government. So they're using phone as just really just a phone to call each other. I think that's it. Okay, so information. Do you think as a South Korean person, I can write a letter to them?
They don't have
No.
mail.
That's correct. Post. There is no mail. Thank you. Can you imagine? No mail. No mail. Forget email. They don't have mail or email. So how do we send them information? We send them leaflets in balloons. Crazy, right? But we don't have a choice. We need to send them information, so we send the leaflets. And a lot of people think like, oh wow, like one balloon? No. I'm talking about the balloons of this size. These are tiny people. This is the balloons. These are massive size balloons that we're shipping over. And we have to find the perfect day with the perfect weather condition and perfect wind to be able to fly them to north. And what do we put them in that leaflets and balloons? Do you see dollar bills?
Oh.
And everyone's like, why the hell are you sending dollar bills? Guess what? They use dollar bills. US dollar bills is the most preferred currency in North Korea. They have their own currency, and they use Chinese yuan, and they use American dollar. So American dollar, $1, can get them about 9 pounds of corn or 2 pounds of rice. So the reason we are sending a dollar bill with a lot of other information is because we want them to open it because of that $1. And in that, we include information. We also include, so these are some of the things that we include them. T-shirts, underwears, some medicines that they can use. We even send them some clothes. We send them pens. We also send them radio because they don't have radio. Their own radio only comes with the preset stations, so they can't hear anything from elsewhere. So we send them radio that they can just scroll, and there's a lot of broadcasts they can pick up that we try to say a lot of different things for them. And a lot of times it's actually covered by North Korean defectors who speaks in North Korean languages and their accents, because they have certain accents we don't have. As we talked about, there is no internet. And only books that they have is North Korean parties' written books. Can you imagine you go into a library, the only books that they can have is propaganda books, and that's what they have. No TV, the same thing. No TV outside of propaganda TV that North Korean party puts out there. The scary thing is America's kind of becoming that route, aren't they?
TV, yeah.
Education. They can only study North Korean government curated programs only. Just because they wanted to study English, there's no way. There's no literature studies. Religion. Do you think that North Korea has a religion? That's right. They prosecute every single religious people in North Korea. And the saddest part always make us, the South Korean, cry is that when their defectors come out, they actually can say a lot of things about Bible. And we ask them, how did you do that? Did you have a Bible? It's like, no. If we have Bible, we'll get killed. How did you know that? Oh, always gives me a goosebump. They memorize. People memorize different verses, different parts of the Bible, and they're verbally teaching other people to memorize. That's the only way the religion survives. And if that's not the power of God, I don't know what it is. North Korean diplomats in foreign countries. Obviously, North Korea has diplomats outside of their country, right? France has them, Spain has them, all of those countries usually have North Korean embassy. And you think, well, what about those people? They've been outside, they have information. Do you know why they can't speak up? North Korean diplomats are only allowed to leave North Korea when they have more than one child. Because one child is held back in North Korea. So therefore, if you have two, you can take one, but you can have to leave the other one. And they hold them as basically hostage so that you can never say bad things. They still defect. And some of them has come to Korea publicly. And they know for a fact what that means, therefore, on their son. But their argument was, we wanted to save one last son, or that daughter, knowing that what will happen to that kid. North Korea is known to kill 3 generations. If you defect, they will kill your parents, your siblings, and your children. That's North Korea. Yes, so we win just about every statistics versus us versus North. North wins in military. True. North Korea is about 52nd largest country as a population perspective, but they are known to have about 4th largest army. They spent about quarter of GDP on their military. North Korean military service, men serves 10 years. Freaking 10 years of their lives required. Women, 3 years. South Korea, women don't serve. Men serves 18 months. Yes, it's skewed. Very true. So these are some of the statistics. South Korean, we have about 600,000 military, whereas they have about 1.2 million. And a lot of different things. But we believe that our quality of the military is far better than North Korea because of technology. And we have made a lot of our own technology to build a lot of different war rockets and everything that we have on our side. But of course, our biggest supporter of the United States Army, being in Korea, is huge help. And when Trump came to North Korea or South Korea to meet with Kim Jong-un, this one picture was taken just randomly and it went viral in Korea. Let me show you. As you can tell, on the left is American Army military person. Right is South Korean military personnel. In the middle, the short guy, is North Korean. Our bet is that this guy on the left and that guy on the right probably whoop the small guy's ass at any time of the day. So those are the things that we believe that we have on our side, we feel comfortable. So with these stats, I hope I convinced you that what happens when socialism you choose or versus capitalism. There is literally black and white study of the twin study of a socialism versus capitalism. So anyone in your family or anyone who speaks about socialism, please let me know. I'm happy to share any information. I'm actually recording this conversation, which I will send it over to Linda, and then you can also circulate them. I always upload them in YouTube so you can watch it. But there's another reason I'm talking to you today, is the similarities between ideology of woke ideology of the United States and North Korea. I know, it sounds crazy, right? Similarities between US woke ideology and North Korea. I'm going to read some of the things that North Korean Party does. I would like you to substitute the word North Korean Party with US woke ideology and see if you find similarities between the two. Here we go. North Korean Party decides what is right and what is wrong. And you are not allowed to ask questions or push back. If you push back or question them, they will punish you and your family. Cancel culture. North Korean Party dictates what to think, what word or vocabulary to say, what to believe, and they constantly come up with new concepts, new vocabularies, and enforce them. And if you don't keep up with those, they will be flagged. That's why they come up with new vocabularies and so forth. And you have to use those right words to make sure you let everyone know that you are with the party. Isn't that virtue signaling? North Korean Party tells their people to denounce their enemy in public forum to prove you are loyal and agree with their ideology. They have to do that. They actually do weekly public gathering. So where you can say you publicly denounce these people because they're enemies. Isn't that what United States do in social media nowadays? North Korean Party claims that they are the ones that they are morally right, morally superior, and the enemies are those who sold their souls to the riches, to the capitalism, and to the ones in the power. American white men, they're the evil. This one is exactly the same, actually. North Korean Party claims that they are the party for the working class, the poor, the sick ones. They love everyone and treat everyone equally, and they strive for complete equality. Same thing here. North Korean Party controls information distribution. Any other information outside of those channels are called fake news. They actually use the word fake news far before the United States did. North Korean Party classifies people based on their heritage. North Korean people, whether your ancestors were pro-Japan during the Japan colonization of Korea, whether your ancestors were pro-United States during Korean War, whether your ancestors' relative left North Korea to move to South Korea, right before the split of the Korea. North Korean Party punishes people for their ancestors' sins and say those people who you have to pay back for your ancestors' sin. Reparation. North Korean Party brainwashing starts very early in elementary school. The regime appoints their most staunch believers into teaching positions to make sure all kids are educated properly from their view, indoctrinated in the regime's thinking. North Korean Party teaches children how they should be loyal to the party and their ideology, not their parents. They actually teach them to watch your parents' behaviors at home, and if they're saying anything outside of the North Korean party guidelines, they need to call out their parents, and they need to come to school and tell teacher what your parents say. And when you do call out your parents and report them, you get a reward. North Korean party does not allow any religions and teaches believing in religion is dangerous, evil, and clear sign of traitors. Doesn't this sound all familiar? And that's what scares me, and why we need to fight for it. And not only people are trying to make the United States to a socialistic country, they are already using North Korean tactics. So, in conclusion, I would like to say a couple things. Number one, there should never be a question whether socialism is a good system to try. North Koreans were just like all of us, wanting something good and noble. But remember how the socialism always starts, to get to the utopia. And despite so many trials, in hundreds of years, not a single system, not a single person got to actually live in the socialistic country. And the moment you start giving up on the discriminating one discrimination, you open to all discrimination. And not speaking up, not getting involved, is very much of an action itself. And we all need to speak up and fight for what's right. And how do we do that? You get up and vote. And you speak up. We speak up and we fight on the debates and we have tough conversations and we teach our kids and teach next to children with the statistics and actual facts, not feelings. And please go out and vote if you haven't already voted. Thank you so much for having me here today. Do you want me to take any questions?
Sure.
If there's any question, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
The last time I heard you spoke, you talked about the reason why North Koreans defect to South Korea. Could you tell
Yes.
us about that?
A lot of people think North Korean defects because they want freedom, liberty. No, they're hungry. They're defecting because they want food. There was one North Korean soldier. The sad part of the South Korea and North Korea is that they can't defect through DMZ because there are so many mines on that field. South Korea, we've been working on removing mines so they can cross. North Korea has been putting more mines so they kill their own people trying to cross over. But one guy did it. And he said he was watching. He was stationed at the DMZ area. He was watching wherever pigs or animals get blown up so that he knew where were the mines. So he memorized it. And he said, when I saw those animals blown up, all I could think about is like, oh my God, I wish I could eat them. I was that hungry. And he crossed over and he ran and he said he came for a bowl of rice. But oftentimes they have to defect to China. The worst part of that China that we really fight for is when they defect, they run over to China, and China's policy is to capture North Korea and then send them back. Because of that, when they are in China, they're so scared of the police. And Chinese people use that. They trade human beings of North Korean people. They sell and buy North Korean men for labor. They sell women for sex, to have babies. And some of the towns don't even have money to buy one woman of their own. So town together buys one woman. Yep, that's what they do. And they use that particular woman by all men in that town. And when they're done with it, they sell those people for organ harvesting. That is a rare thing. There's estimated over 3 million people in China, as we speak today of North Koreans, are suffering in all these horrific situations. And only thing we ask is that when they say they want to come to South Korea, let them. We will come and take them from you. Because in South Korea's constitution, any Korean born in Korean Peninsula is automatically South Korean citizen. We don't differentiate between North Korean citizen and South Korean citizen. Any Korean person is a South Korean citizen. So when they come, we just give them, replace their IDs and passports. They don't have to defect, say, hi, I'm defecting. No, you're already Korean. You're South Korean. We've been working so hard with the UN and trying to speak up at UN as well. Guess what? UN is on China's side. They won't do anything about it. So please let everybody know what's happening. Yes, sir.
The North Koreans going to fight in Ukraine.
Correct.
Will they come from Ukraine to the United States?
Who knows? But because of that, now South Korea we didn't want to get involved in the Russia-Ukraine war. We've been giving money to Ukraine directly. We didn't want to give them military assets to Ukraine because then we didn't want to provoke North Korea. But now we know that North Korea has already sent their troops to Russia. We are now going to send our own, not own military, but we are willing to give our military assets, equipment, and so forth to Ukraine. That's what we're working with. So we might be fighting each other in Ukraine and Russian war, but we are also sending information. Remember the leaflets? We're doing that in Ukraine. We are also sending leaflets to North Korea and saying, this is the best opportunity you have to defect. You just say this word or call this number, whatever you can, in South Korea, we will come and grab you. So we are hoping some of the soldiers will see that and defect. But a lot of times they are so afraid of doing so because of their family members. That's really always reason they don't defect, because of that reason. Yes, ma'am.
What's the only chance or hope or strategy to end this North Korea thing?
I know, there's a lot of always the thoughts. What if we just kill Kim Jong-un? Would that work?
No.
We think about those things a lot. It is really not an easy answer. So North Koreans, people that I told you about who defected, who lives in South Korea right now, we have about 100,000 to 300,000 people of that in Korea. Do you know what their biggest struggle of adjusting to South Korea?
Freedom.
They don't know what to do with their freedom either. But they don't understand why people work hard. They can't understand it. They say, if you have food for 3 meals, why do you need to work yourself to death? I don't get it. The self-actualization of your own self, trying to make something of yourself, that concept does not exist. And we realize it's really hard to instill that brand new idea. And they don't understand why people are speaking sometimes badly of the government. What we are realizing is we've been separated so long, and they're indoctrinated for 70 years, that it is really difficult for them to get out of this and then adjust to new life and new way of thinking. So what we are so scared of is that way of thinking that has been so different. How do we meet together is the biggest thing. And we're also afraid that when they collapse because of a famine or any of those issues, let's say the government collapses and then we merge. How do we teach them? It's a big thing on us, but it's our problem to solve. But first of all, in order for us to be standing, because in South Korea, this small country, above us is North Korea, willing to kill us and trained to kill us, 1.2 million active military. Behind them is China. Behind them is Russia. In the whole Asia continent, we're the tiny little bit of a land that's left for freedom. And this country is helping us to hold that ground, and without it, whole Asia falls. And then it'll be Japan. So we need America strong.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you very much. Can I take one last question?
Oh, yeah, sure, sorry.
Okay, my question is, we have all this indoctrination in our own country, and I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of people. Man, I tell you, they got these kids by you know what?
Yeah?
And that's what I'm really scared of.
Yes. If you don't yank that now, it will be North Korea and South Korea. Even if we offer free housing and everything, we get them actually, when they defect, they have to go through school. We call it Hanawan, means to be united one institute. It's called One Institute. And we teach them literally histories again. All of those facts again. What is a banking? What is a credit card? What is a cell phone? What is an internet? All those things. It takes about a year to year and a half for them to be able to graduate that institute. So they have some ground to work. They live in Korea. We give them, of course, free housing, startup money, and all of those things. Yet they struggle hard because of the indoctrination. So if you don't change that now, you gotta yank it now, because otherwise, you're gonna have North Korean people living in amongst you, basically. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's kind of very powerful. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for standing up and bringing this to our attention. A little scary, so I don't have a lot of announcements.